focus of right now. Wilder, Fury 2, here we go.
Okay, we'll start with this. Well, Jeff Horn had this to say about Tszyu. He admits Tszyu's name was the reason that he took the fight. Former WBO welterweight champion Jeff Horn admits that Tszyu's famous last name had persuaded him to accept their planned showdown. Tszyu's famous father, Hall of Famer, and former undisputed champion Tszyu is a legendary figure in the Australian boxing scene. Tszyu, facially and in body, is a mirror image of his father, which is why Horn tolerated the tough negotiations to make their fight happen. I don't think he'd be getting a fight like this without his name. I wouldn't have taken this fight if it wasn't a Tszyu, Horn told The Age. Horn's promoter, Dean Lonergan, says the 25-year-old Tszyu has never faced the same level of competition as Horn. The reality is, Tim has fought a lot of Sydney-level club fighters as opposed to Jeff Horn, Lonergan said. Tim's gonna start making money that he's never had before. The media attention will be enormous, and when he gets in the ring, people are gonna go, oh, this is Tszyu getting in the ring, not Tszyu, which Sydney insiders will do because they look alike. Now, this is one of many fights that ended up getting postponed as a result of you-know-who.
Corona!
The global pandemic affecting most every aspect of day-to-day life in every corner of the globe. But I want to say that I am still genuinely intrigued by this fight, perhaps more so than some others in this part of the world, as you know, Jeff Horn's limited. He's got his limitations.
Nobody's perfect.
But when Dean Lonergan states that Tszyu has yet to face the same level of competition as a Jeff Horn, he's right. You know, it's not just promoter talk. There's a lot of truth in that Jeff Horn's been in there with anyone from Manny Pacquiao to Terrence Crawford to Michael Zarafa. Michael Zarafa is a more solid guy than anyone Tszyu has fought so far. So you wonder if for Tszyu, this is too much too soon. Therein lies the sizzle. Therein lies the intrigue. I will say that Tim bears a very striking resemblance to his father, Tszyu. But in the sport of boxing, your last name and who your father is doesn't always guarantee success. I mean, look at Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. and Chavez Jr. You know, look at Joe Frazier. Look at Marvis Frazier.
Exactly.
You know, look at Shane Mosley's kid, Shane Mosley Jr. He's a good kid, nothing against him, but he really isn't competing at the level which his father did, is he?
Nah.
You know, most people forget. Shane Mosley was a very formidable guy at some points, several points in his career, and his son has yet to achieve that.
I mean, he's not there yet.
And who knows? Maybe he'll get there at some point, maybe he won't. We think of Chris Eubank Sr. and Chris Eubank Jr., and Junior's a solid fighter, I mean, yeah, but I don't think he's achieved the same level of success, the same level of accord as his father.
Nah.
I don't think he's even scratched the surface
Nah.
of that in terms of domestic and or global appeal. I mean, I just don't think that Chris Eubank Jr.'s name holds the same weight that Chris Eubank Sr.'s name held, comparatively. In other words, in boxing, the apple can fall quite far from the tree. When it comes to Tszyu, who bears a very striking resemblance to his father, Tszyu, you wonder if that's not the case.
We'll see.
For Tim, this very much is a coming-of-age fight. The kind of fight that most every single unbeaten prospect must go through to thereby change levels. In essence, up his level of competition and his own level as a fighter. That's what this fight is. And Jeff Horn, he's a guy who gets a lot of stick. He's a guy who gets a lot of shit for his limitations. But no matter how limited you might think Jeff Horn is, at least you know what he is. And in that way, he's bankable. That Jeff Horn, you know, he might not be Pernell Whitaker out there. He might not have the fanciest feet or the fanciest hands. but he's a gutting and gritty fighter with a lot of heart.
He's a tough kid.
He went into that Michael Zarafa rematch, and he didn't change much. I mean, his approach in the second fight was almost identical to his approach in the first fight. And if he won that fight, it was on sheer guts, grit, determination, and the will to win. That, yeah, maybe Jeff's got his drawbacks, but he's got no shortage of heart. And that heart has gotten him to a higher level as a competitor than Tszyu has gotten to so far. Because Tszyu is a prospect. We don't know how good he's going to be or how good he's not going to be. This is the kind of fight that answers those questions. I'll say that most of the value, the interest for this fight really is relegated to the land down under, as these are two of the more familiar names in the Australian domestic boxing scene. The name of Jeff Horn, who upset the plans for Manny Pacquiao, was just in a titillating barn burner of a fight rematch with Michael Zarafa, and the son of Tszyu, one of the bigger, perhaps the biggest name in Australian boxing, in the Australian boxing scene. I mean, it really is a great fight, but I reiterate, most of the interest for it is in the land down under. Here stateside, a lot of people, they're not even familiar with Tszyu. They haven't seen him in action because it's not like he's been participating in undercards here stateside, where, this audience would get to have a look at the kid. But if you need to know anything about this fight going into it, it's that it's a classic kind of dynamic, a classic kind of matchup that pits a boxer versus a puncher. And in this situation, it would be Tszyu that is the boxer, whereas Jeff Horn would be the puncher. I don't think you need me to tell you what kind of fighter Jeff Horn is. We don't need a crash course on that guy. We're already familiar with that guy and how he likes to go about fighting a fight, whereas it's Tszyu that has the air of intrigue, the air of mystery, as most people here stateside, they don't know him. They ain't seen him in action. But if you want to know anything about Tim, it's that he really is more of a boxer than a puncher. And the kid can punch, at least
against those guys,
given the level of competition that he's been facing so far. Those kinds of guys. He can definitely hurt a guy. And he's not a pressure guy. He's not a come-forward plotter, not a slugger. He's not physical in all the ways that Jeff is physical. If Tim is anything, if he exhibits any kind of quality, it's poise, control. He is a bit of a sniper. He picks his spots, picks his shots, takes his time. And the test for Tim here is trying to stay that guy against a physically imposing fighter that's going to try to fight a physically imposing kind of fight.
Rough you up.
That, Tim's not a Gatling gun guy. He's not a machine gun guy. He's a sniper. So in between trying to pick his spots and take his time, what's going to be happening? Does he have the legs to effectively maneuver around Jeff Horn, who I have no doubts is going to be the guy on the front foot looking to mix things up? What's going to be happening? Does Tim have the composure against this level of opponent to not be drawn out into a war? A war that, it might favor Jeff. Jeff's not an outside fighter by any stretch of the imagination. He's not a long-distance guy. This is a mid-range to inside guy, wants to stay close to you, wants to stay with you, and hook off. That's how he goes about his business. And if he can draw out Tim into this kind of situation, it's going to answer a lot of questions. It's going to answer questions as far as how good is Tszyu at that range and what he can take. Can he take what the likes of a Jeff Horn is got? That is assuming that Jeff Horn can draw Tim out into a war. Who knows? Maybe Tim maintains his composure and wins the boxing match against Jeff, as Jeff, for all his virtues, does sacrifice a whole lot of defense for offense. Being that aggressive lines you up for the other guy's shots, and Jeff is the kind of fighter that takes one to give one. Perhaps that could work in Tszyu's favor. That's the sizzle here, folks. That is the intrigue. I'm very much looking forward to this fight when things get back to normal. I'm anticipating that this won't be a situation like the Michael Zarafa situation. That was a situation to where if you wanted to see that fight here stateside, you were shit out of luck, as no broadcasters here picked it up. With the recent news that DAZN was expanding to 200-plus territories, 200-plus countries around the world, it is conceivable that if we get to see this fight here stateside, it might be through DAZN. I mean, I do vaguely recall them mentioning Australia as one of the territories they were expanding to. So if and when this fight goes down, perhaps the people here stateside are going to be able to watch it via their DAZN apps, via their DAZN subscriptions. I'm looking forward to this thing, and I got a lot of thoughts on it. But, if you needed to know something about Tim, that's what you need to know. That this is a boxer versus a puncher, and in that realm, it's Tszyu that is the boxer. That's what he brings to the table. A more composed and measured approach than what you're used to seeing with a Jeff Horn. Does it work out for him? Well, we won't know until we find out. In other news, Tyson Fury promoter Frank Warren had this to say in regards to Anthony Joshua. He says, Ruiz exposed Joshua badly. He showed the blueprint. An excerpt from the article reads, if they ever meet, Warren expects Fury to expose all of Joshua's flaws in the contest. In less than a year, you look at the turnaround. Joshua was top of the tree, then he went to New York, and it was a complete debacle. He was exposed badly and gave everyone the blueprint to beat him, Warren said. He won his title back, and he did it in good style, in that he trained hard, got his tactics right, and he was fit. But Ruiz was a disgrace. The guy looked like he'd been training in his larder, the pantry room. We know Ruiz has fast hands, but he had no legs in that fight. He came in even bigger than he did for the previous fight, so it played into AJ's hands. Tyson Fury is a great exponent of exposing people's weaknesses, and for me, there will only be one winner. Exposed is one of those words in the sport of boxing that often gets thrown around without much thought. When you expose something, you uncover it, you reveal it. And there wasn't very much revealing about the first fight.
Not really, no.
In regards to Ruiz and Anthony Joshua per se, because I already knew ahead of the fight that Andy Ruiz can be lethal mid-range to inside. That at that range, he is very formidable. That is Andy's sweet spot.
Pretty much.
But to say that Andy Ruiz exposed something about Anthony Joshua begs a question as far as what did he expose? What did he reveal that we didn't already know? What, that Andy Ruiz can be lethal mid-range to inside? That he's got fast hands, quick counters, and he can punch? That he's got a chin? We kind of knew that already.
Yeah.
I don't know, at least I did. I mean, think about the question. What did he expose that we didn't already know? What, that he's better in the pocket than Anthony Joshua is?
Is that it?
Going into the fight, I figured that. I warned ahead of the fight that Andy, he's got very quick counters at that range. He can be lethal there, and Anthony Joshua has to work to keep the smaller man out.
Yeah.
See, what Frank Warren is saying is that Andy Ruiz exposed something about Anthony Joshua, and in doing so, the blueprint is out. But what's the blueprint?
Specifically.
I'll give you an example of exposing something in a fighter that thereby establishes a blueprint for other fighters to be able to beat him. When Tyson Fury fought Vladimir Klitschko, he was able to offset Vladimir Klitschko's trademark jab and, in effect, took away his right hand. If Klitschko can't touch you with the jab, he's not going to bother bringing the right hand over, and Tyson Fury's movement, his feinting, his trickiness,
Disabled Vlad.
it disrupted the otherwise accurate, effective, trademark jab of Vladimir Klitschko, and in disabling the jab, he disabled the right hand. If he don't touch you with the left, he's not going to bother bringing over the right, thereby hampering Vladimir's offense. That is an example of how you can expose something about a fighter. You take away his jab, the right hand's not even going to bother to show up to the party. You think about what Tyson Fury did with Deontay Wilder. He backed Wilder off, thereby exposing that Deontay Wilder don't got the same power going backwards that he does coming forwards. That if you keep backing this guy off, there's not going to be very much he can do about it. In a very nuts and bolts kind of sense, we know that Deontay Wilder is a fighter that goes in there looking to do the job with a single shot, with a single punch, often at the cost of many rounds. He's not the busiest fighter. He's not the most prolific puncher. He really isn't.
He's not.
Waits for the right opportunity to hit a guy with a shot that he doesn't see, and usually that's enough to get the guy out of there. But if you can manage to be the busier fighter, get mid-range to inside on Wilder, rough him up, push him around, it will offset Wilder's power, so much so that on the back foot, he'll be helpless. In that way, Tyson Fury revealed something about Deontay Wilder, a blueprint that another fighter can follow. Whereas when it comes to Andy and Anthony Joshua, Andy Ruiz himself, by way of fight mechanics, did not go in there and expose a flaw, so much as he capitalized on one. He capitalized on one as a result of Anthony Joshua being far too cavalier with his hooks, with his power. You're giving up your height to the smaller guy, and in that way, you're doing half the work for him.
And he was able to take advantage.
So if Andy was able to capitalize off of that, it has less to do with Andy and more to do with Anthony. I mean, you can't necessarily say that Andy Ruiz has put the blueprint out on how to beat Anthony Joshua when he was effectively shut out in the second fight. That whatever success you had, for whatever reason you had it in the first fight, it was not evident in the second fight. And what did we see in the second fight? That Anthony Joshua was no longer giving up his height to the smaller fighter, that he was fighting behind straight shots from the outside, staying on the go.
On the move.
Staying on the balls of his feet, moving around that ring, and pumping that jab out there. And that so long as you do this with Andy, there's not very much that Andy can do about it. In essence, if anybody put a blueprint out on how to beat anybody, Anthony Joshua put a blueprint out there on how to beat Andy Ruiz. Not the other way around. When I say that he exposed something about Andy Ruiz, that he put a blueprint out there that another fighter can follow in order to beat Andy Ruiz. When I say this, what do I mean? I'll tell you what I mean. Andy Ruiz is very formidable mid-range to inside, but if you keep him on the outside, that hand speed, those quick counters, that punching power, it doesn't even come into it. You effectively deprive him of the opportunity to use those characteristics so long as you stay on the balls of your feet and box him from the outside.
That's what he exposed.
That Andy's no good on the outside. And that is the proverbial blueprint on how to beat him. That Andy's a good fighter with a good chin, quick counters, and strong punches. But if he's on the outside, he's kind of helpless. That's the blueprint. That's what Anthony exposed. Now, if we put the shoe on the other foot, and we try to use the first fight between Andy and Anthony as some kind of a blueprint for something, there's a problem. A fundamental problem. And the fundamental problem is that whatever was working for Andy in the first fight wasn't working at all in the second fight. And the difference is obvious, that even if you so decided to use the first fight as some kind of a blueprint for something, I'll tell you what, you're going to need another blueprint.
New one.
Because whatever fundamental flaws or whatever mistakes were made, they were corrected in the second fight. So you're going to have to find some other kind of way to beat this guy. You hear people mention Andy's weight in the rematch and what role that played, and I don't dismiss it, but do understand that whether you're talking about Andy in the first fight, or Andy in the second fight, or any fight that Andy had leading up to those fights, Andy Ruiz has never fought on the balls of his feet. He's never been particularly mobile or athletic.
That's the blueprint.
So regardless of what he weighed, he would always have to get mid-range to inside before he could do anything. And in that way, the blueprint is out on how to beat him. Keep him on the outside, there's not going to be much he can do about it. You know, I don't expect old Fish Eyes to have very many kind words when it comes to Eddie Hearn's prized stallion. We're gonna be honest with each other. If anybody got exposed in that second fight between Andy and Anthony, it really was Andy, as whatever deficiencies Anthony had, he already corrected them. So you're gonna need a new blueprint. You're gonna need a new plan.